Okay, it's 6:05. We're going to start. Firstly, thank you everyone for coming. We're going to kickstart this meetup, and it's all about career in software development or technology on a whole. Um,
To give you a bit about Jamaican developers, the group that arranged this event, we are a community of tech enthusiasts in Jamaica that aims to grow and market development skills of Jamaican with a community of highly proficient technical officers and companies. So far, we have 300 members across different platform, Meetup, the Docker event, and also Jamaican developers website and our discourse forum. In addition, we've done over 20 training since last year February, and we are aiming to train more and more developers, above like 100 developers in the coming months.
Objective of all of training meetings is to strengthen the development skills of Jamaicans, which is geared towards building and marketing these developers. Jamaica has quite a lot of quality and very skilled developers, but at times it's the exposure and the opportunities that basically is not given to these developers to for them to earn more, to develop and create great products, especially locally and overseas. So one of the things that we are doing as a group, we are creating a centralized hub for anything related to tech in Jamaica, whether it's news, jobs, events, training, projects. Everything related to tech will be hosted and promoted on Jamaican developers website, so that it's a form of export to the world, and more companies, whether overseas or individuals overseas, can see the type of project we are working on and the quality developers that we have right here in Jamaica. And of course, as developers, we may, do a lot of Google search in for like bugs or some research and development to, improve the way we work or improve our quality of our software. And at times, we might go to Stack Overflow, Medium articles, or some other online resource for these type of tech blogs and solutions. So what we are gearing towards is to create our community platform apart from the centralized hub. That community platform is like a discussion panel. We're using Slack and a discourse forum to basically create that discussion and chat between developers locally in Jamaica and of course Jamaican diaspora. It means that a developer, even though you may want a particular solution or help with, finding a fix for a bug or something of the sort, um, you can simply connect with someone nearby within Kingston, Spanish Town, and that person can just give that individual assistance as well as reach out to us, and we'll find some means of helping these developers. So going into the agenda for today, we're going to look at the roadmap in software development, and then go into the discussion panel with the guest speakers, which I'll mention later on. Afterwards, we'll wrap up after taking some questions from the audience.
Okay, so the next topic is traits for becoming great developers or a productive developer. All right, so first is interest. Knowledge is power, as we all know. And being willing to learn research new tricks, skills, workflows, and techniques and technology that will help you to become more productive over time. Because, of course, interest drives how much you're willing to learn and how much we're willing to do research and be good at what you do or be knowledgeable at what that that aspect is or technology. So interest is a driving factors. Be willing to go learn something new and implement. Um, for us as developers, experienced developers, we read on a daily basis to probably um, weekly basis, and all of it is stuff that we would eventually use, and it also helps us to build our understanding of system technologies and how people utilize these type of technologies that we're developing and also the services that we're utilizing elsewhere. Next is experience, of course. Experience is generated by working on projects or doing something. Yes, reading a book is helpful and so forth, but at the same time, that cement happens after you actually put what you learn in practice. You build your experience, and by working on whether your own project or some exciting project, even if it's pro bono, it helps builds that portfolio of projects that you can showcase to the world that you've done, and it also helps build the knowledge base, skill set, and all of the things that you would normally use or developers would use in software development. So for example, if you're interested in building a mobile app, go learn Flutter. Follow these best practices, read up on what's possible and so forth, and then the project that you had in mind, if you even if it's a simple a task management app to track your daily routines and so forth, you can just simply do that in Flutter. You get to learn about one how to do mobile development, um how to work with time, and say you want to sync across um the task across all different platforms and devices that you use. You end up working with cloud-based technology and synchronization and time tracking and so forth. So there's a lot of things you would gain on experience and knowledge you gain by just working on projects, and you can just showcase it, especially when you have a mentor or some guide to show you what's the best practice and how to do something, and all of this will help to build your portfolio and make it become more marketable. For example, in Python, there are certain stuff in Python when it come on to okay, how operations are done, or floating point and integers are calculated versus how it's done in PHP, and that can make a huge difference. Experience with the language and the scope or the area that you're in, you get to understand the domain and all of the perks and quirks of the particular domain, language, or technology. So experience is needed, and I urge you to work on projects. The next trait is, of course, collaboration. Be willing to collaborate with someone, even if it's your own project. Bring them on, show them what you're doing, and build a team around a project. Find a partner to do something great with, because the thing is that collaborating with someone will eventually pay off in the long run, because you get that experience of peer coding, working in a team, project management, team workflow, working with Git and exchanging code, integrating code, and it also helps you to understand how other developers think, and also how to write proper code based on what others are doing in the project. And it also helps when produce quality code, because one developer will review something and said, okay, this doesn't work, this wasn't, this can be optimized and so forth. So find someone to collaborate with, and you guys can bounce ideas, exchange skill sets, and learn new things from each other. And lastly, and definitely, join a community. Support is critical. And you probably been in the situation where you have a particular problem, whether it's a bug, issue, or you need to learn something new. You go Google. You Google, Stack Overflow, Medium, post or something, and sometimes like learning from those material, even YouTube videos, it's not enough, because you don't have that hands-on experience and that real-time guidance to just ping someone and ask them questions. So I urge you, join a community, and
For
there's a lot.
example, there's quite a lot of communities in Jamaica. For example, GDG, Flutter, the Docker Docker meetup group, which is hosted by me. GDG is hosted by Geraldine. There's WordPress, which is hosted by Bianca Wells. Python Jamaica is hosted by David Bain. Same for Make Better. Make Better is also hosted by David. And there's a Facebook developer group that works on different Facebook APIs and working with Facebook technology, as well as React.js and other chatbots and so forth. And of course, there's Caribbean CSPA, which is a security group, and that's basically um, hosted by Gavin. It's you and Ramal run CSPA, or it's just you?
So no. So the CSPA is an association that was recently started, and it's an association for security and privacy in the Caribbean. So
Okay.
that was founded by me.
Okay. All right. All right. So apart from, so when come on to, okay, what for web developers, what do you need to know? Alright, for as a web developer, the basic stuff that you need to know, whether you're for in front end, back end, DevOps. For front end is well, all of them. You definitely need to know Git. You definitely need to know like basic terminal commands. Um, Data structure, JSON is basically the best data structure that you should know. It works for both backend and front end, and also a lot of DevOps tools also use JSON data for processing. So definitely data structure and algorithms how to process these different type of data structures. GitHub and other Git repositories like GitLab. You have different license that you probably need to learn. It's some simple license. GitHub a lot of and basic SSH to basically access a uh, remote server, secure socket layer, and basic between HTTP and HTTPS. I guess Gavin can touch on that later. What's the difference between HTTP and HTTPS, which is simple as it's a secure socket layer on top of the normal HTTP protocol. But question to you, Gavin, which I'll ask later is you can answer later is how much, like for example, how much websites there are that tends to be insecure and how easy it is to penetrate those HTTP websites. Um, Another thing to know as developers is like design patterns and the way, for example, front end, you can utilize material UI, um, things that will come onto the user interface, the interaction, all best work with and develop the design patterns, especially color palettes, to have some form of consistency and intuitive in any system that is developed. And of course, character encoding. Python has a lot of UTF-8 debugging and errors, especially when converting from ASCII and UTF-8. So moving into the discussion panel, this is where I'm going to actually, stop talk and let the get panelists take over. So the first panelist I'm going to introduce is Oswald Smith. Oswald, are you there? I think you are.
Hey guys, how you doing, Shane? Hey everybody.
All right. So Oswald, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you, what do you do, and what is your latest invention and things that you worked on over the past few months?
Mhm. All right. Hi everybody, I'm Oswald Smith. Everyone knows me as Oz. I'm a software developer at CMU right now, the Caribbean Maritime University. I've done before that. I've done work for the and still do work for the JUTC. I implemented Google Transit for them. And well, just recently, I launched a new app, a mobile app. It's called Light Bill Tracker. You can use it to estimate what your light bill is at any particular point in time. So I mean, as we go through the program, I don't want to take up all the time. I'll back over to you. I'll have a lot more to say later.
All right. Before we continue, as what for you when it come on to software development, this is a question to all of the trainers. But specifically for you though, as a developer, what type of certificates do you have or wish aim to have in the coming future, near future?
Well, so as it stands right now, there's a first degree in computer science. That's it, which I didn't go back and get until I was almost 30 years old. I've always hated school. I've never been the 4.2 GPA type. That's my younger brother with CAPE awards and all that type of thing. I've never cared about school. I don't know how to care. So yeah, my first degree, I've thought about, maybe doing the MSc in computer science, but I mean, meh, we'll see how it works.
Okay, all right.
Well, as are you? I know you're throwing it out, so I'll just jump up now. I'm Tremaine, as the screen name might say, and Oswald. That idea about the light bill tracker. It's funny. They said great minds think alike because I think I'd done something like that in a hackathon once where we're trying. I think JPS that came out the time with the prepaid meters. So
Right.
I think from the perspective of how many appliances you have within your household, could
Mhm.
we give an estimate as to say, how much would your prepaid bill be on a monthly basis? I think we came third in that hackathon. So it's just funny that you launch an app that does similar or has a similar functionality like that one. So kudos, at least you're taking the idea to implementation, which is important.
Mhm.
Um, as it relates to, so I'm a software engineer also. I have been doing this from 2014 professionally, but I've just been interested in software ever since I was about a teenager. Um, I also lecture in software development at Vector Technology Institute, but I do more of I do software development and also embedded systems, which this next step for me in terms of what I want to do next. In terms of certifications, I only have a undergrad from no, not Vector. I only have an undergrad from Excelsior Community College. I was never an individual to run down certifications because, to be honest, it just captures your education at a particular time, it doesn't, not to say that I'm trumping it in any way, it still validates what you know, but it validates what you know at a certain point in time. So I've never been one to run down a certificate. I will only do it if I see if a job requires it. But so far, I've never been asked for any of the roles that I've taken up to provide a certificate in this or that. I think what I've done is enough certification to show that I am competent enough to be a programmer.
Okay. Thank you, Tremaine. To introduce the next panelist is Gavin. Gavin, can you go ahead and tell about bit about yourself, what you do in security? Before you continue, anyone has any question, you can post them in the chat, and I'll basically ask the question to the panelists as we go along. Continue, Gavin.
Hi everyone. So I'm Gavin Dennis. I'm a cybersecurity consultant. I lead a few initiatives in the Caribbean. For example, I lead the Caribbean Cybersecurity and Privacy Association, which is an association for Caribbean people and for the entire industry in the Caribbean to help us develop into an international hub for cybersecurity and data privacy. I also lead G5 Cybersecurity, which is a company that provides services to businesses and people in cybersecurity and privacy. And I also lead the G5 Cybersecurity Foundation, which is a non-profit helping Caribbean people to live better lives. I'm originally from Jamaica, but I'm currently living in Germany. I've worked in security for, I think, maybe 7-8 years now, I think. But I've been working for about 12 to 13 years. So I started working at age 17. So I've accumulated quite a bit of experience in different fields. And I do it all with security.
Okay. All right. So, as you probably can tell, there's quite a lot of title to under your name. Well, above your name. Can you expound on some of those titles, if you don't mind?
So I have a few of the popular certifications in the cybersecurity field. For example, CISSP, which I think is Certified Information System Security Professional. I have a cert called CISM, which is Certified Information Security Manager. CASP, which is from CompTIA, Certified Advanced Security Practitioner. So I think I have about 5 now, and one of them expired, which would have made it 6. But over time, I accumulated them. So I started out getting my first cert in about 2014. And then, over time, one by one, each year I did one, and, it built.
Okay. All right. Before we move on, question about certificate. So, you probably get based on the responses from Tremaine and Oswald, which I also share regarding certificate and being a full stack developer, or just any aspect of development. So, when it comes on to security specialists, certifications, is it important?
Yes, it is important, and it's more important than a degree. The fields are a little different. So for development, it's not such a big deal to have a certification to prove that you are competent, right? But on the security side, it's very, very important because of how they are structured. For example, to earn the CISSP certification, it means that you have to gain 5 years experience. So apart from passing the exam, you have to submit an application to become certified, and a part of that application means you have gained 5 years relevant experience in the field. So when I go into a room and I say to someone that I have CISSP, they know that I have experience directly relating to security. So, and if you contrast that with a degree, right, if you look at a degree now at most of our universities, and you look at a degree, like the degree they're offering now, and the curriculum and the degree they offered 5 to 10 years ago, very little has changed. So with certifications in for the security and privacy field, they usually expire after 3 years, or they're usually refreshed after 3 years to match what is happening in the industry, to match the terms, the technologies, the practices, and the developments which have happened. So someone with a certification in my field, it proves that they are keeping up to date, or they have relevant knowledge, and not just passing from a syllabus which has been recycling for 10 years straight. So it's different, and it is very, very important. And I don't have a degree. So yeah, so that's important to note. I didn't go to university.
Oh, quite interesting. Um, so another question, before we move on, is someone asked earlier, what's the step towards like becoming an ethical hacker, and if taking on a job in software security or cyber security, what's the first certification would they need to do, especially in Jamaica or the Caribbean, and the cost structure around that?
I think someone is okay. Someone wasn't on mute. So ethical hacker. Just a quick disclaimer before I talk about it. A lot of people tend to directly jump to ethical hacking and pen testing when they think about cybersecurity, but there's a lot more that you can do other than hacking and pen testing. It's very, very wide. So if you're thinking about cybersecurity, don't immediately jump to pen testing or hacking, because there are a lot of things that you can do in security that has nothing to do with hacking, as in you're not a hacker. To start out with to get into ethical hacking, I recommend that you start out with a network related course, such as CompTIA Network Plus, because almost every single thing in security is based on networking. So if you don't understand networking, IPs, DNS, how network traffic works, then you will have a very hard time understanding why something is a security issue, or just understanding security in general. So start with a networking course. VTI, I know VTI offers some good networking courses, VTI in Jamaica. So I would suggest you start with a networking course, and then from there you do an entry-level security certification similar to, such as CompTIA Security Plus or ISC squared SSCP, and those are entry-level certs. So start with networking, understand the concepts, understand how traffic works and all of that, and then you do an entry-level cert. And after that, then you can consider ethical hacking, like CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker. But get the foundation first. Don't just jump in and say you want to hack. Don't try to skip the process, or you just won't be very good.
All right, noted. Thank you, Gavin. The next guest panelist is Akil. That's 16. Akil, can you go ahead and introduce yourself? Akil is from Circuit CI. He's an actual friend of mine. We worked together back in this. I'm so proud of him to work at Circuit CI. And Circuit CI is one of the best automated testing tool on the market, up there with Travis CI. So giving him some big ups, you can take over now, Akil.
I mean, that's a hard big up to follow though, but thanks. Yeah, so I'm Akil. I'm a software engineer. I've actually touched a lot of different areas. I started out in front-end development, went into QA, full stack, now DevOps and infrastructure. So I've been around. I'm sorry, someone's mic is on. I hear an echo.
Okay.
Right. Like all speakers here, don't really have any certs. So a pretty common theme. I guess you're wondering how important it is to anybody who's listening. But I do have the opinion that there are some general certs that are good to have in your back pocket just as a good foundation. Like the cloud foundation, the cloud essentials from AWS or Google Cloud is a good example. It touches a lot of different areas and a lot of different cloud technologies that you may or may not have to interact with depending on what you're doing. I think that's somewhere good to start if you're looking for a certification. But like everyone says, it's not strictly necessary unless depending on your industry or domain. Yeah.
Oh, Akil, you're based in Canada, correct?
Oh yeah, that's also important. Yeah, I'm based in Canada. I started in Jamaica. I've actually been in Canada for just over a year now.
Okay. I think I glimpsed you last summer when I was visiting. You were walking through that mall, that underground mall place.
What kind of memory do you have?
One that makes me a software engineer. No, I couldn't get. I think I was rushing to Union Station, so I think I passed you going up an escalator. So I was like, "Wait, isn't that Akil?" But I couldn't. If I missed that train, I would have missed my flight. So it's either that or I says hi to you some other time.
They sound like crazy disconnections.
That's really cool though. Like if you're back in Toronto after this craziness, yeah, we should look up.
Yeah, I definitely like Canada. I think when I was going down, I was leaving for a flight to go to Alberta. So yeah, I kind of did like a East Coast, West Coast kind of thing, Toronto, then Alberta. So I'll definitely be back. Hopefully Corona is dead by then, but let's see.
Cool.
So the next guest is actually a student, Deandrew Moore, and someone asked me why is Deandrew a part of the panelist. Funnily, there might be quite a lot of students in the attendees. So Deandrew has been doing quite a lot of great work in the software development industry. He's been getting mentor from a famous person in the tech industry. I'll let him extrapolate on that. So it's from a inspiration point of view and the way it position itself as a student in the tech industry, working in the tech industry and getting internship opportunities. I would really great to have him to share his experience from a student point of view. Deandrew, you can go ahead and introduce.
I don't know about the famous part though. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Deandrew, as you see there. I'm a student. I'm a second-year student at the University of the West Indies. I am an aspiring mobile application developer and an AR enthusiast. Yeah.
All right. Joel Dean is your mentor, correct?
Yeah, I've known Joel for a time. He has been instrumental in first like get him introduced to mobile development, and then I've just been out there learning the things, reading documentations and things like that. So yeah.
All right. So the two first question I had for all of you panelists was geared towards certifications and courses and so forth. But despite not having, like, for some of us not having like a certificate, for example, I'm the local community leader in Jamaica, but I'm actually not certified in DevOps, but I know a lot of DevOps. I literally am a full stack with DevOps from server management, network, all every single thing you can think about DevOps, but I'm not certified. Okay, so the question is then, okay, for us panelists that aren't certified, what would you recommend that others would do when come on to courses to ramp up in knowledge and experience and the different type of it's certification that's out there that you think it's a good to have. It's not necessary for software development, certain necessary for software testing and security, but it's not necessary for software development unless you're doing something that requires a lot of experience and it, for example, a university research study on AI and so forth, they tend to prefer to have individuals who are, have a degree or some form of certificate in that field. So when come on to courses, knowledge, experiences, what do you think individuals can do or the courses that they can take, and especially which platform out there would you recommend them to have? That's a lot of question in one.
Yeah, a lot of things you said there, but I'll try to answer it properly. All right. So firstly, I think that I think that once you have opportunity to get a university degree, I think that you should do it. So I'm not against don't go to university and everything like that. But if you don't go to university, then there are many other ways that you can get yourself out there. So it's just a matter of you understanding what you want and using the opportunities that you are given. Um, so as it relates to courses and career path, I think it's important from early or once you get into software engineering or software development that you try out several things, see where your interests lie, and after you figure that out, then you want to kind of zero, on the things that really interest you. So I've tried out several things. I really like mobile development. So what I did was I got into native Android, so I learned Java. I did Android applications. Got a few work to do with it, internships, and then last year I somehow learned about Flutter, and instantly I said, all right, I'm gonna try this out. I started doing it, and then I applied for the Calico internship program, and I got accepted. And I think the thing is that it's not that there aren't. I think that there are a lot of like really talented students out there, but what's important is how you position yourself and put yourself out there. So, for example, when I was applying for the Calico internship, I I sell everything I know about Flutter on it. So I run a blog and I blogged about Flutter recently. So I put that, hey, I know about Flutter. I talk about this blog. Hundreds of persons have read it, which is true, and things like that. So it's about understanding the field that you're going into and try to position yourself in a way that the others can see that you're able to add value. And part of that comes from having a mentor, things that you'd have learned in the past and you're able to apply them now are things that you've seen them do and you're like, all right, let me try this now and see if it works for me. So yeah, if I left out anything else, please let me know.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure one of the other panelists can also add to what you said. For example, Akil, what was it like for you when you come on to type of courses and your learning curve to, know what you know and be where you are today? Because like you said, you've been in DevOps testing. When we were working at Alto, you were doing software development at the time. So, you you have a lot of experience in different areas.
Which question to answer first? So to me, or I just want to add to Deandrew's point of university. University helps you definitely. It's definitely. I think it's important to go to university if you can go to college, not just for the education aspect, but also for the networking aspect. Or you never know who you're gonna meet. These people can be people who you can lean on for knowledge and experience. This might be where you get introduced to your mentors. So it's a great place to be. I like his outlook. I don't find any problems there at all. For me personally, I built a lot of shit. I'll be honest. I mean that both in that I did a lot of stuff and a lot of it was crappy software. In the past, like I did a lot of my own personal projects. Looking back, they were ambitious, and I think that's where a lot of my learning came. I started out. I think my first personal project I tried to sell was a courier management or logistics management software for a small courier. I learned a lot about the full stack during that project. And I think doing that helped me more than I would say the courses at UA, because that meant, okay, I had to figure out what I knew, what I didn't know, and how to figure out how to actually solve the problems I didn't know how to solve. What technology I had to make decisions that I looking back again weren't the best decisions, but it gave me a starting ground so I could start asking questions. I could start leaning on people who knew more than me. And that would actually build my experience more. Because at the time, it's still, I don't know if it's probably still the same, but it was pretty hard to get a good job in software engineering. So I found that doing my own projects, trying out entrepreneurships gives me more experience than just trying to get a job. If that answers the question.
O'Shane, let me see if I can take a stab at it real quick. O'Shane, you still online?
Yes, go ahead. I was
Just
muted.
stop away, Oswald. Stop away.
Okay. Okay then. That was poorly worded, but okay. Right. So, all right. So, I think the best thing for you. So as I said, I'm a working software developer, but I actually started out on the system administrator side. Now, to be fair, I actually started programming first. I started programming in Python from in 1999 with version 1.5.2. So I learned programming before, but in terms of professional work, I started from the system administrator side. I mean, if you guys remember, like Megaphone or so, I was one of the first system administrators at Megaphone. So I always had a programming background. So what I found in terms of getting hired as a programmer, nothing beats portfolio. Now, I will say this. There are certain companies that pretty much you're not going to get hired if you don't have a degree. Yes, they might make some exceptions if you know this person, you're exceptional and so on, but there are certain places, particularly for bigger companies, it's something on the form that they need to check off that you have a degree. And if you don't have it, it's going to cause problems. So remember, I went to UTech at first. I did a year at UTech and dropped out to work at a startup. Megaphone was a startup at the time, so I dropped out to work there. As I said before, I don't like school. But after Megaphone and after that experience, and you're going to different companies and so on, and everywhere you go, oh, they have a degree, or okay, you don't have a degree, so we're going to pay you half of this and that type of thing until you get a degree and so on. At one point, I just made a decision, hey, let me just get this degree and get it over with. So, and I think some of the guys said it before, get your degree, get it over with. It doesn't make you a better person or anything. It's just something to check off on a box. Get it done, get it over with. In order to getting hired now, nothing beats a portfolio and projects to show. I'll be honest. Now when people ask me so if I'm going on a programming interview, I just tell them I did Google Translate for JUTC. You can go ahead and Google it. And after that, there's no questions. Showing them the degree itself is actually a formality. Actually, you can look at it and show and everything leads that, because anyone was hired programmers.
I think
Is
we've
anyone having
lost.
trouble?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so too.
Okay. Let me just pick up from, I will just add my 2 cents. And yes, Oswald is right about them ticking off the degree. So I would suggest everybody students, just finish a degree. However, in the news, you're hearing things contrary to that notion that Google and other companies are hiring individuals without a degree. But you have to understand the context in which they are saying that, because it applies to U.S. citizens. So it doesn't, well, it mostly applies to U.S. citizens, because if you're coming from another country, you have to be at the top of your game to enter Google, to make sure that you are, selected for one of their roles. So yes, finish your degree, and I'll just add that it doesn't matter where you finish your degree, in my perspective, because when I left Woolmer's Boys and I went to Excelsior Community College, and a lot of persons were saying, well, why did you skip the name brand schools, the UTech, the UE? I was of the mindset that, look, if they are just checking this off on a form, then it shouldn't matter where I go to school. And I think going to a smaller college for me helped me to kind of focus and be a better software engineer, or to look at the market and be very strategic, because I knew I would have been on the bottom of a pile when they're sifting through resumes. But it turns out that most of the times when they pick up my resume, I'm calling for an interview. And when I would ask, hey, why is it that, you selected me? They say, well, because it's based on your projects, based on what you have done, it seems as if you're competent. And for me, I've always had the right mix of financial knowledge, literacy, in terms of working in a bank for 7 years. So that helps me to be a better rounded candidate. So for those students on the call, go to the other clubs, in school, to learn about finance and other things, because it helps you to frame or to look at problems that you want to solve. So whenever you are coming up with a new application, you may have that expert knowledge, or that knowledge about the domain that you're trying to solve the problem with, and that gives you brownie points whenever you're speaking to an interview, a company about a job. So definitely having, being a well-rounded individual as it relates to just life on a whole, helps your software development career path. So like Oswald, I've done some projects, but some of them are personal. Well, sorry, like Akil, some of them are personal projects. And how I had to break into the field was that I had to do a lot of hackathons at the time. So hackathons in Jamaica were like the rave, and you would go there and you would pitch your idea. And so over time, because I finished my undergrad in 2011, I was still working at a bank doing sales. So one important thing that came out of that is the ability to sell yourself. So even though you may have all the skills in the world, if you're talking nerd or you're talking gibberish to an interviewer or anybody, they're not going to understand you. So if you can sell yourself, that's the most important thing. So learn how to write properly, learn how to articulate, learn how to put your words together, because words are powerful. So that's the reason, I guess, for me, why I've never really relied on certifications, because I would just knock on the door, I'll show them what I have, and they will say, okay, come in for an interview, and let us hear what. And I would sell myself interviews to the interviewer, and 9 out of 10 times I've been asked to sign the dotted line. And that is just my 2 cents as it relates to certification projects and just selling yourself as a whole.
If I may just comment on what Tremaine said. I mean, like, Tremaine has been spitting these facts since I met him, like 2016 or something like that. Yes, it's been a while, and I mean, like, the point Tremaine made about the ability to have the soft skills to become a more rounded developer. These are things that are very important, and like I see them to be very lacking in terms of developers I see around me. Well, some of them, like, they may be really smart, but they can't articulate themselves. They can't put together a sentence properly to express themselves. And as Tremaine said, companies are looking for you to be of value, and if you're not able to show how you can be of value, then I mean, they're just going to select somebody else over you. And the other thing that being able to have these soft skills allows you to do is, you're not seen as a commodity, as, oh, there goes a guy who can code or something like that. It's clear that you have a clear thought process, and that you're able to think at a high level, and able to solve certain problems from not just rushing into coding it at first. And then when you're able to project yourself as that, then you become more valuable to a company. They want to have you in meetings and things along that line. So yeah.
All right, before I add my 2 cents, Tremaine famous line, Gavin, do you have anything to add?
Yes. So everyone made some very very valid points, right? And just based on my experience of what I see now, for everyone on the call, especially those who haven't started their careers as yet, it's going to be very important, or at least it will be very valuable when you start to create an online portfolio that interviewers or even business prospects can see. So if you're thinking about getting a job or thinking about being an entrepreneur, whoever you're pitching to, they want to be able to assess um, what have you done before to prove that you are competent. And even in security, a lot of persons contact me often, and they want to get into security. They want to get into security, but very few of them have something to show as to why they should be separated from everyone else who wants to get into security, right? And the same will be for for development careers. If you build an app, have have something on GitHub to show that you have you have built something. Don't just have a degree and then expect to go in a room with 50 other persons who also have a degree, but there's nothing to separate you from everyone else. You want it, they want it. So what will separate you? Can you show something? Do you have a blog post that you've written? Do you have an app they can download? It doesn't have to be perfect, but the interviewer or even your business prospects, they can't assess everything from just your resume. And if someone can Google and find something that you've done, it makes a significant difference um, between everyone else who is also going after that opportunity. So build a portfolio, work on the soft skills, as the others have said, but especially the portfolio. Just try to at least have something to show about why you should be considered, seriously considered for the opportunity.
But also, Gavin, just to add to what you said, even though you have something as your portfolio item, don't ensure that you study it inside and out before the interview. Because what I've found as a lecturer, when I tell students, okay, yes, build something and put it out there, they will just copy and paste something that is already built and just rename it. So
Oh,
remember,
but then
whilst
it's
you're
not theirs. It's not
well,
theirs
no,
then.
but the thing, because I mean, I've gotten projects that when I went on GitHub and just Google the same theme,
Yeah,
I'm seeing the same code popping up. So we have to be very careful. When he said it, I said, let me just make sure we clarify that. Yes,
yeah,
you will have something that is not perfect, but at the same time, don't go out there and steal somebody else's code and pass it off as your own. Because when you go on a job, and I've experienced this already, where I'm on a team with developers and I'm seeing a lot of cracks as it relates to their knowledge. And I'm wondering, did me and did we both do the same interview? Because obviously either the interview process is flawed or you just kind of faked your way through the process. So you have to just be careful about that idea, about the fact about what you have put in your portfolio. Just try to solve a problem. So for me, all the times I'm coming up with some edge case problems to solve. So recently I said, okay, I don't like coming out of the terminal every now and again. So to check my packages that come through ShipMe, I just built a command line tool that would just check ShipMe's website and that's it. And I put it out in a while and I was surprised that people were interested in that. So just do something if it is small, if it solves a problem that somebody never really thought about before, solve it and move on. It may help you, it may not help you, but when somebody look at your resume and see I have all these little small scripts, they say, no man, this guy have some sense. Let us hear from him, and you just go there and sell the top three that you did.
Okay. So to add to all of that, from my experience, I if I should write a resume, it's probably going to be a fat resume. So I tend to not write resumes. Um, so for example, in 2017, I did Google Summer of Code. Apparently, David Bain and I are the only two Jamaicans since Google Summer of Code started did Google Summer of Code. One of the initiatives that we tried to do is get more students onto Google Summer of Code, so that will rank up their experience working in an open source environment with an open source organization, not to mention the technology. So, and it not just open the door for students when come on to working with technology and other individuals and the different aspect. It also opened doors for travel because I actually went to Japan, Barcelona through Google Summer of Code and went to speak at different tech events. So when come on to my selling point, as a software developer, I tend to just use Google Summer of Code and the stuff that I have done for Google as a selling point. Funnily enough, I could easily just say, oh, I actually work for a company part-time in Dubai, work for a company in part-time for in South Africa and so forth. So I have a lot of projects on GitHub that helps to build that portfolio. So it shows that I'm well versed in different aspects of in software development, from software testing, DevOps, and so forth. And the one of the point that I made earlier in the slide is about interest and experience. As Tremaine built the shipme terminal command line utility, as well as Oswald with the right build tracker, all of that is based on interest or a need. Well, personal need, and that expounded into like a global need for different developers, different end users, and so forth. So these stuff are useful. So, for example, you never know that application that Oswald built that could land him a high job at JPS, and he started to earn 10 times the amount that he's earning. So building projects, whether it's for personal interest or whether it's for just trying out something, it always helps building your experience, building your portfolio, and you literally can talk about these type of things and meet like-minded people to add to all of the things that you've done. And at the end of the day, the big win for software development is that we are creating usable tools to add value to someone else's life. Even if it's just our life at first, it will always add value to someone else's, because everyone shares some form of commonality with the type of interest, pains that we feel. And this is a part of the whole user experience, well, user design journey and customer development journey. It might start out with a simple interesting project, and it might exponentially go into something that will beneficial your portfolio and others as well. So I do encourage all of you to basically just find something interesting that you always wanted to work on, and just start and join a community that will basically help you to develop your skills, knowledge, to develop whichever project that you wish to launch, or even to use for your personal well-being. Um, so one of the questions that I was asked on Sunday, and this geared towards security. Gavin, what it is like for you working with developers, especially because you're in software security, you don't necessarily touch on software development, but of course, both work hand in hand, because every website, every application needs some form of cybersecurity mechanism to ensure that there's no form of malicious attack or so forth. So what it is like for you to work with software developers in your field?
So so it's a that's a good question. So one of the things that I've been trying to work on as a goal is to get software developers to build security into whatever they're creating. The big problem I realize over the past few years is that most software developers aren't paid to integrate security. They're paid to make something work and to ship. So they don't really get the time to make it secure, because most of the time the companies just aren't paying to get that done. They just want something to work and then it ships. So what's happening now is that you have web apps being built in 2020 with the same security vulnerabilities from 10, 15, 20 years ago. And even though there are all of these new languages and new programming languages, applications and various types of software still have the same vulnerabilities being pushed to production. So, so I would love to see software developers getting greater opportunities to build security in, whether that means you have a guy who is, or a person who is making the code work, and then there's another dedicated person on the team who is responsible for ensuring security gets built in, because I think it's difficult for software developers to be great at making functional code and also making secure code. So I think there might need to be a role that starts to develop in development, where there's a person who is just purely responsible for creating secure code, or at least ensuring that functional code eventually becomes secure before it gets to production, and not just to make it work. So I think for the developers here and the ones who are already experienced and the ones who are trying to start out, if you build websites, if you build web applications, try to integrate security as a charge, as a service, and as a part of the process before you ship software. So it might mean that that customers will start to give you a pushback to say, hey, money, the cost, but try to sell them on the value of security, because if you build something that is highly functional, but someone can tear it apart and compromise that app in just a few seconds, then it will also reflect poorly on you, even if you were not being paid to make it secure. So just, that's just my thing, because I do a lot of web app testing, and it's something that I see as a huge room for improvement. Developers now in 2020 building things which are considered as secure. So try to integrate security, try to charge your clients for that additional benefit, and in addition to making the thing work. And for the university students and the newbies, there's a lot of opportunity for you to specialize in secure code, not just functional code, but secure code, whether it's DevOps or just making code secure. There's a lot of opportunity. That's like a niche to focus on, because people like maybe say Tremaine, they just like to build and make things work. But there will be people like you now who can come in and say, okay, you're the person who is just entirely devoted to making the thing secure. Going through the OWASP top 10, going through the OWASP application security verification standard, and just taking that and adapting it to whatever is being built. So that's my take as a pen tester and web app security pro. There's just a lot of room for developers now to integrate security into whatever they're building.
All right. So there's a follow-up question, but because what you just said, I have a pre-follow-up question. So due to the landscape of software development in Jamaica, I, I can honestly say developers are under a lot of pressure to produce something high with a probably low pay or little amount of time. But so there's not enough time to invest in software testing and software security. So if you should recommend, or if you have anything that you basically have a guide, okay, how can developers get started in software security, and how they can simply implement tools that will make their whether website or mobile application more secure. What would it be? Well, before you answer, like for example, I personally use Cloudflare, which add a lot of security to a lot of website. Two-factor authentication. Every single app I use built. A majority of them have two-factor authentication. Turn off XSS in okay, I don't remember that security vulnerability. So because I'm losing like the memory of what I was going to say as example, what tools would you recommend for developers to get started with in soft security like our mobile applications?
So first, I'd recommend getting a guide, and I'd recommend using owasp.org. So OWASP.org, and they are a non-profit entirely dedicated to web application security. So they have something called the ASVS, which is the Application Security Verification Standard, and that has about like 141 different controls that you should implement for any web application, right? So that is an excellent guide. They have a whole lot of resources. So it doesn't matter what you're building relating to web apps, they have a lot of different content to help you understand what type of security requirements you should build in, why it's important, etc., such as having password reset, allowing someone to paste the password, identity management, how to handle sessions, ensuring that when someone logs out, their cookie is no longer valid. So owasp.org is where I think someone should start. And as you go through their content, it will point you to different pieces of software that they recommend for each aspect of security when it comes to applications. So that's where I recommend that you start. The tools are linked on their website and in their different publications, whether it's a blog post, whether it's a testing guide, whether it's a standard that they're offering. The tools are linked. So once you go to that website and you start to use what they're recommending, you will be pointed to the different tools.
Gavin, you just added 3 more months to my development process. How dare you?
Yeah, I wanted to jump after you, Tremaine.
No,
Yeah,
that's why Gavin, because Gavin just add 3 more months to my development process. So when I tell a client, boy, it's going to take a certain amount of weeks, though I'm in the back of my mind, after Gavin just spoke, I'm like, right, I need to charge them more.
No, you need to charge them more, but get someone else. Get someone else to do the security side.
But the thing is,
I don't think it's
you cannot put security as a line item on your invoice. You cannot put that.
No, include it in it. So development and security, include it in it. Right. Yeah, include it in it, because trust me, if you ship that to them and then they realize, and then a week later that software gets hacked and they realize that, well, security wasn't considered at all, they are still going to blame you for it, even though they didn't want to pay for it. They're still going to blame you for it.
Perhaps, but remember, security, well, like most other things, it's really an economic question. I mean, for example, some of the biggest tech companies we have now, they got to $1 billion companies and they were not very secure. Take Google for instance.
Back then.
Huh?
Back then. Yeah.
Well, but then you might. So you're gonna spend. Tremaine is gonna spend 3 extra months locking down every single thing. By then, the other guy done gone with all of the market share already.
No, get someone else on the team who is focused entirely on security. So that's the thing. Like, no, you can't get away with that now. Like 10 years ago, sure, but like okay, take for example, the government lost 90-something million to some hack that happened during a workshop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, back then, companies weren't facing these major attacks. But now, because of how everything is advanced, you have things in the cloud, you have
And the attacks are
just
automated.
a whole lot of development, a whole lot of automation where if you put a website now online within maybe 5 minutes, I can tell you that there's someone who is trying to attack it.
Yeah, but you see the SSH logs all the time.
Yeah, so but back then that wasn't such a big issue, but right now you can't avoid dealing with security. Like you just can't. A lot of times you don't hear, like a lot of businesses now, they get hacked, but you don't hear about it because they don't even know that they got hacked. Right? Trust me, I do this every day.
I've heard stories. What
Yes.
what I think about my approach to it is pretty much, well, let's be honest. Most of us if we're doing web apps, most of us are developing using some form of framework, whether you're in Rails and Django for the old timers like me, or some fancy new JavaScript flavor of the month framework. So in my case, I pretty much look into what the framework itself offers in terms of security. So for example, I know Django, they do a lot of middleware that handles, the XSS, the ORM, the CSRF, and all of that. But as I said, it really is an economic question, because when they need it now, and sometimes you do for some type of things you can take the risk. I mean, if you're not processing like financial data, health data, and so on, for some type of things, not everything is a nuclear bunker or Fort Knox.
But it's based on where the world is going now. It will be very, very difficult for you to avoid it. Like for example, let's say you build an app and it's supposed to deal with like health data or personal data, right? You build it and they know that security isn't a part of what they paid for. You see, unless you get that documented that they are waiving this requirement for you to build security in, if their app gets hacked and then the government comes down on them with some data protection law, GDPR comes down on them, they are going to try to find someone to pass that off to say, oh, it's not our fault. The developer gave us insecure software, blah, blah, blah. So you will also have to think about the legal implications of not explicitly asking them to pay for security, because of just how the world is going now with every country trying to implement a data protection law. So it's the landscape itself in which you are developing. That landscape is changing.
It is.
You cannot avoid security or privacy.
I know Akil wanted to get in something here. Akil?
Oh yeah, thank you. I want to completely agree with Gavin. I don't think there's any good excuse to push security to the side or leave it to the end of the process. You want to have it included as early, and that's like that's one of the core tenets of the DevOps culture. As Gavin was saying, you want somebody on your team who has this focus, and I'm not saying like somebody in the corner that you talk to every now and again. I mean somebody involved in the process early on to say these are the practices we should follow. This is what we want to do. If you are a solo developer, there are still best practices. There are still a lot of automation tools. There are tools built in that will do, like for example, if you're building images, there are tools that will scan your Docker images for you. You can evaluate those the CVs that it finds. There's so many things to help you do security. It won't be as good as somebody completely dedicated, but I don't think there's any good reason to push it off to the end.
No, so I would say that both you and Gavin, in a perfect world, you're absolutely right. Tremaine will tell you, I'm a capitalist bastard, and I talk to a lot of capitalist bastards like me. And so okay, well, so at what point do you draw the line? And sometimes the business is willing to take that risk to get to market sooner.
Yeah, but get them to explicitly say that they are taking this risk. And don't just ship. So get them to sign off to say.
But Gavin,
everyone, calm down. We're focusing on career today.
Okay, one last thing. Just to add to the capitalist speech. If you, Gavin, I mean, I understand right now, I go on Instagram and I see a ton load of people offering their web development services for free. So the market is getting to a point where it's saturated, where everybody's a web developer. Now, if you're taking on an economic standpoint where, all right, I'm going to ask them to sign off or to waive their rights as it relates to security, that could be the difference between you getting an income for a period or not getting an income. So yes, it is valid because where I work, we do this. I think we have to do this every 6 months. We do this gamification of security. So we have to participate in a game to ensure that whatever code we write, it is secure. So that is built into the company's culture. But however, as a solo developer, you'll find that you're competing against other developers that will just throw the rule books out the door just to get to point Z. So yes, you are. I mean, it's a consideration that I've always had on the table as it relates to security for my applications. It was just never brought to the forefront until now. So thanks for that, Gavin. But from an economic standpoint, I think most developers will say, "Boy, here I go on. Me need this food. Me need to eat. I'm gonna develop your app. I'm gonna move on." You know.
And not just the business, sometimes not just the developer, sometimes the business itself.
But there's opportunity in that, because if you have everyone who is claiming to be a developer, now you can claim to be a secure code developer. So
Yeah,
there is
that is
still a
where I
way.
was going. That is what
Yeah,
that
so
is that is what. So I can
yeah,
add that to
so
my
there's
title.
still
Say I am a secure developer.
yeah, so that there's still opportunity to differentiate yourself and have a unique selling point where companies will want to pay more money if they believe they are getting secure code. So there's still opportunity in it. I've seen where developers have lost a project because when they called in the pen testers to test this thing that the person built, it was hacked very easily and they lost the entire project because of that. Some companies will say, okay, we now know where the vulnerabilities are, and they will ask the developers to now fix it. But some companies will just completely get rid of the developer because it is going to cost them too much money to deal with the security implications of it. So there's opportunity now to be a secure code developer versus just a developer.
All right, thank you, Gavin. I'm going to move on. No more question comments on this. There's a question in the chat regarding, okay, if I want to transition to software development, where should I start? So I'll tackle on this question. First, there's a lot of online materials, but at the same time, you might not know where to start. There's this nice, well-structured website about developer roadmaps, and the first thing you need to figure out is internally, what do you like? Do you like sitting on the computer, deep into code, or you when you come on to back end, or is it front end? You like the whole designing, the look and feel of a website or a mobile application. So it's basically figure out if you're artistic type of individual when come on to development, or whether you're into the numbers, the crunching, the logical operation and so forth. That will basically help you to determine whether you should go back end or front end, and then the type of application that you wish to build based on your interest. So on this website, for example, if you go to front end, it's the link is in the slide. I'll share the link in the chat shortly. But this goes into a lot of technology that we use in software development, and there's links to each aspect where you can go and learn these different technologies. Otherwise, from that, there's Udacity, Udemy, and all of these online platforms that gives you a step-by-step tutorial on how to develop different software solutions. So it's basically, one, understand what do you want to do, and that will basically land you into front end, back end, Android development, or whichever development scope that you like. And then this as a real detailed, okay, if you want to be a front-end developer, of course, you need to understand stuff when you come onto the internet. What is HTTPS? Difference between HTTP and HTTPS. Domain name servers and basically domain name and of course IP address. This basic stack of web development, HTML, CSS, and the SEO when it comes on to search engine optimization. There's quite a lot of things that you can just look through, and this gives you everything that you need to know to become a great front-end developer. And from especially from using a CSS framework, CSS preprocessors, understanding version control and come on to working with team. So it's definitely a nice roadmap of you transitioning into any from any field into front end or back end or Android development or whichever. So I'll send this link in the chat. You can take a look at it after the event. But if anyone else want to tackle on the question of the transition to software development, or the if Gavin want to expound on the transition from being a software developer to a secured software developer, you can go ahead.
Gavin, one step before you. I just want to say that so this roadmap is good, it's very comprehensive, but I will add, particularly to the newbies, you do not need to know all of this to become a productive software developer. Nobody in this chat right now knows half of this. And I will bet real money on that. You do not need to know every single thing here to become a productive developer that ships working code. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Let me defend myself for a moment. Well, it's not necessarily defend. Just saying, of course, when it's not necessarily you need to know all of it. These are some of the stuff that you need to know. And when you're building, you work on your vehicle, right? When if you wash your vehicle, if you change your engine oil or so forth, you know those parts to make it work. So it all starts from a building block. Take the simple stuff and then build on top of it. And the more you do, the more you learn, the more skills you add, and the technologies that you basically utilize, and the different workflows and development trends that you learn, the better you become. So it's a matter of having a starting point from, okay, this is step one, and where should you go next?
Well, I concur with both viewpoints. The idea here is that you need to know enough to get you the position. However, I think the where O'Shane was leaning towards is that you have a choice as it relates to where you specialize, and I think that's a misconception because in Jamaica you have to be able to build an application from start to finish. I think I've never seen a junior developer role being advertised recently or for the past 2 to 3 years. So you have to be careful about what you learn as as an emerging software engineer. Take, for example, Deandrew. Deandrew knows, or I'm assuming that Deandrew knows how to build a mobile app, but at the same time, he must be able to configure the backend, such as the database services and everything on the server. So you have to be cognizant of the environment that you're going to be looking for a job. So if you're going to look for a job in Jamaica, 9 out of 10 times you're going to see an advertisement for ASP.NET or Microsoft related technologies. The 1% or the 1 out of that 10 is related to any other technologies that are out there depending on the development shop. So you have to be very strategic about what you learn. In my case, I never went with the crowd. I stuck with JavaScript ever since 2014. And JavaScript, even though I'm working for a company that uses Microsoft. I am not. I can function in the Microsoft technologies because I have an understanding of how things work above the language, but you have to be strategic about what you know. So looking at this, yes, you may need to know everything, or you may need to know a little bit, or you need to be functional, but ensure that when you're looking at your skills, look at what jobs are going to be available, because you'll be going down a path where you're going to be either going on the road of being an entrepreneur at some point in time. So think about that as you look at this site. It's a very good resource. I've used it, but I'm still not going to commit fully to being a front-end developer because I don't see any jobs in Jamaica. I said, okay, come to my shop and do front-end development. No, that's not usually the case. All right.
Just to add my 2 cents from a student perspective, there's this thing that I started to employ after listening to this podcast. It's called just-in-time learning. A lot of persons may be familiar with it, but it's just the concept of you're supposed to learn the things that are probably core or critical to what you need to do now. So yeah, I'm not fully employed, but in the meantime, I'm not going to try and learn every single thing because I really can't learn every single thing. Last year, when I was in an internship, it required for me to learn about Amazon Web Services, about EC2 instances. I took the time to learn at that point in time. There's no point in trying to learn everything or try to get a grasp on everything from now. It's to just focus on a few things, get good at it, and also keep your options open in the sense that you want to ensure that you're keeping abreast with different technologies. But whenever something arises, if you know yourself, if you know how quickly you can learn this thing, then you can tack it on. So that's just my 2 cents.
Evening, everybody. Just an addition. The best way I've always recommended to learn something or to transition to development or to learn programming in general, whether it's a new language or just improving your skills, is to find a project. Whether it's a personal project, even a free project for somebody, or an actual client project. Find a project and then sometimes learn the skills to do that particular project. So if right now you know no programming languages, say you're gonna create TikTok 2 or something, then figure out what languages might be the best to use for that particular project and work on it. Then pick up on GitHub and then you have a portfolio. And you'd have learned whatever skills would have been necessary to make that game or whatever. And you continue just like that, create ideas in your mind and create different projects, and so you can add to your portfolio, and then you learn skills along the way.
All right. So the person who spoke just now was Rowan Smith. So to add to what he said, so as mentioned before, doing a project will help you build experience and your portfolio. The thing is that as you go along, even if you're hired in a single job or working on multiple projects, in a job situation, especially in Jamaica, you're going to probably be hired as a junior developer, but might end up doing senior or system admin work. That's typically the case in Jamaica, and it does end up whereby you learn different skills, different tools, and so forth. But of course, it's based on that particular project. So the roadmap, yes, and the roadmap is generally like common concepts that you tend to learn. When you come on to whether you should learn one language over another, and then selecting the best language to code it in, that's literally, it's a difficult question, but it's a simple answer. The thing is that yes, some language are more optimized, some language have more features, some language are easier to learn and easier to use than others. But at the same time, what I generally tell individuals, learn the concepts of the language, not necessarily the language itself, because the language itself is just syntax, semantics, and so forth. While the concept like higher order functions, certain algorithms, those are stuff that you can do. So for example, one of the jobs that I got from Dubai, there's one of the largest e-commerce site. They had a PHP package and they needed a Python developer to basically offer that same PHP package in Python and in Node.js. So I replicate their code in Python and Node.js and then just do that job as a one-time thing. What I understood from the project, the PHP, was the concept of course, utilizing multiple, like doing how to manage processes, especially when you're doing a multiple simultaneous requests to a different server, which is going to, take up a lot of resources. How would you manage resources and processes like that in one language versus the next? And that's where you understand the concept and the core basics of how these utilities work and the operating system as well. So understand the concept, the algorithm, and what makes a language great. And in retrospect, you can basically develop in any language. It's all about learning the syntax and semantics afterwards. Anyone else has any comment on the transition?
Well, I suppose if you're talking about a transition to something, it might be helpful to know what's the background that you're transitioning from into software development.
I think the person who asked the question, Alden, is he still here? Alden, yes, he is. Alden, what is it you're transitioning from? Okay, no.
Well, it wasn't really for me. What happened? Because I am actually a developer at the moment, but I did invite a friend, a colleague who I know was transitioning into more. So they were more of a Excel sheet kind of person. They're very good with using computer, but not necessarily coding itself. So the question really wasn't for me, but for the individual, because they were on the system.
Okay. Well, if it is that they're spending time manipulating spreadsheets, then at least then so this is someone who at least we know they can wrap their minds around some form of quantitative and structured reasoning. So that's good. So I'm gonna prescribe a regimen for them. Do 1 hour coding practice per day and build an actual application eventually. That's it. Because so doing the tutorials is one thing, but there's also a tutorial trap where people sit. I know you do tutorials all day, but the knowledge isn't really cemented until you actually build something. I think Rohan had mentioned something. Once that said something similar about that. So do 1 hour do 1 hour coding every day, build an actual application. That's my prescription.
Just jump on this for a second to just add to what Oswald was saying. When you're learning a new language, especially when you're starting out, you might be tempted to do things like jump on a YouTube course or Udemy or something. And what I find in my experience is that these courses, while they're good intros, they don't enforce those best practices that everyone's been speaking about, right? And you can practice on your own, but you might just be enforcing bad practices, bad ways of breaking down problems, bad ways of thinking about problems. So what I would also suggest to add to that, there are quite a few good, you probably want to add to that. Say you're going to choose something simple to start out with, like Python or JavaScript. You want to add to that reading blogs or watching YouTube videos of people who are more seasoned in the industry, people who are more passionate and opinionated about these best practices, so you can get a feel of what those are. I think depending on how you learn videos or blogs, where you prefer to watch or read, they'll determine what you want to do. But I think that's a good thing to add to that, so you can get a feel for those for the best, how to think about solving these problems and the best practices you want to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I think I'll add that 2 cents to that also, because when I started out looking at Angular, but I still use Angular. I remember John Papa as being somebody who sat down and he wrote like a guide as it relates to how you structure your application. So looking at those best practices from those leading experts will definitely help your code quality and later think, okay, this is how a framework or a language is constructed or used, or even go to definitely the persons. For me, I read a lot of books, so I'm one that will just buy a used book on Amazon and read it and get a first-hand experience from the book before I go online, because as you rightly said, once you see a tutorial, you can't pack every single thing in a tutorial or a blog post. You have to sit down and get enough resources to make sure that when you start to develop, you're developing in the best way.
All right. Before we continue to the next question, Brian, you raise your hand. Do you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, hey, thanks, O'Shane. I just want to say that all these guys are spot on with everything they're saying. A lot of different thoughts from different perspectives, and I'm probably the old guy in the room. I've been doing this a long time. But development is such a broad field. There's so many different angles and different perspectives. And, these guys are all right. They're all saying different things, but they're all saying the same thing. So, like in our company, we have generalists. We have guys who they know a little bit about a lot of different languages, or they know a little bit about a lot of different, they know DevOps, or they know, front end, back end, database. And then I got some guys on our team, and they're specialists. They know a lot about Angular, or they know about, SQL Server databases. So I think you can be a specialist or a generalist. You kind of need to figure out like what kind of person you are, what you like to do. You like to learn a lot of different things, or do you really like to hone on one thing and do it really, really, really well? So I just had that thought, but everything I just wanted to, say, like, I think all the guys are spot on from my perspective. I've been doing it a while, so really good stuff. Thank you, O'Shane.
All right. So, so here's another bulky question. Well, set of questions. All right. What do you think the current landscape of the tech industry in Jamaica is like, and where it's going? And the follow-up question for that is, what do you think is needed for exponential growth of opportunities and, more earning for Jamaican developers in the tech industry?
I think I can give some insight on number 2 before number 1. In terms of getting the exponential growth, a lot of it has to do with culture change in organizations. A lot of our companies are really led by older people. They are not as tech savvy as we would like. And so Jamaica still has this corporate culture of, come in and take a number and have a seat and so on, because just the systematic thinking where you can think of things in, okay, we're going to have a system that people can do things. It's not really entrenched in our culture. So I think COVID has accelerated some of that. You see, I've seen a lot of doctors now starting to offer teleservices. There's even an app for it now, the MD Link in Jamaica. I talk to my doctor on it all the time, and now we see that central government, what they do with the CARES program, where everything was online. You apply for your compassionate grant and everything. So that has accelerated it. So COVID has been an accelerant. But I think we still need a lot more culture change in terms of what the expectations are. And then once people's expectations are that everything is going to be available online or via an app, then we're going to start seeing a lot more demand for developers. And there's a lot of demand right now as it is.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'd like to add to that. COVID has forced a lot of businesses to care about IT. Trust me, it has been a blessing to a lot of industries. For when it comes to developers, there are a lot of opportunities because COVID COVID now is still forcing a lot of businesses to operate outside of their comfort zone. So a lot of persons do not want to go back to the normal office, traveling to the office every day. Um, a lot of businesses are trying to find a way to kind of differentiate themselves with this new working style. So that means there is a lot of opportunity for developers to create solutions for the problems these businesses are trying to solve. And I would suggest that although we have this cultural issue where there are a lot of people, older people who are still holding on to old ways of working, try to find the businesses who are trying to embrace this modern approach and focus on those businesses heavily. And then what will happen is the businesses who are innovating and using software to solve problems, they will start to come out on top. And then the ones who are realizing, the others will realize that, well, this technology thing is working, and they will have to jump on that ship if they want to survive. So focus on the businesses who want to use technology to help them cut costs, to help them work with this new remote working style. And everyone else who realize that they are losing because they are not jumping on board, they will eventually come. But just focus on the ones who care, and for now, ignore the ones who don't care. Don't waste too much time doing your pitches to them, trying to find the people who the businesses and people who will likely appreciate using technology to help their business to survive this.
Gavin, when you see Jamaica KFC start deliver, you know things are changing. KFC in Jamaica start deliver. You know it real. You know it real. When KFC start deliver, you know it real.
Yeah.
Ocean, what was question one again? I don't even remember what it was.
While O'Shane looked through his card decks, I would just say that in terms of, I know the questions that are, I think I can answer both. Let me start with the exponential growth. There is definitely a lot of, based on what I've seen in my years of volunteering at tech events such as hackathons, I think we have the talent here. So I think we can definitely plug the gap as it relates to the skill set or the skills needed for software development. So I think we're in a good place as it relates to software development and the talent. And I think for the facilitator for all of this, whilst it was mentioned that COVID was an accelerant, I think what can also provide that exponential growth is a reliable, cheap payment gateway. So right now, a lot of times when you're thinking about, okay, how am I going to facilitate, whilst COVID now tells us to be 6 feet apart, you need now something to fill that gap. And if you go to all of the major players in the financial sector as it relates to payment gateways, it's going to cost a cane juice vendor on the street an arm and a leg to get his mobile app integrated to accept payments. So without that piece in place, I don't think we can get that exponential growth. In terms of the tech scene locally, I think from my perspective, it suffered a decline after Startup Jamaica was shut down. And that would have coincided with the current government being in power. And I don't see anything kind of replacing that entity as it relates to just startup help. That's one issue I'm having right now. And two, I think we have to now shift focus from doing software to doing more embedded systems or robotics, because as you can see, I think that is taking off in the in North America, in China and in Japan. but we are yet to be the developers of that system. We have companies that do some level of embedded system development or robotics, but I think that that is where we have to separate ourselves to ensure that we have the technical expertise that stays here. Because chances are, every time I go to a hackathon, all the bright ones, they leave and go overseas to university and they stay there. They don't come back here to say, okay, I'm going to add value to Jamaica. Because to be frank, you're not going to get the same salary in Jamaica as
The Gavin
compared
Ghana
to.
Germany there.
You see, Gavin is in. When I saw Gavin, Gavin was here walking to a financial institution, and then two tools me seen profile change him in Germany. So the
Everyone,
reality,
brother.
yeah. So the reality is, at the end of the day, we have the talent, we have persons here, but we have to shift focus to say, okay, what other skills? How can we upskill from software development? Because India is going to beat us because of economic factor. Them have cheap developers. So we have to come with a different perspective as it relates to the IT sector within Jamaica.
So I recommend people to push back when it comes to the others at the top who are trying to stifle your growth and development and goals. I always recommend people to push back. So there's a cultural shift that we also need to take as the people doing the work, right? Mm-hmm. So so we know what some of the problems are, and we have to collectively come together to fight some of those problems. So for example, people who are trying to demotivate your peers from exposing themselves, from developing their own portfolio of work, from even creating an account on GitHub to showcase what they can do. So we have to come together to say, okay, if we are going to transform this industry, there are certain things that we have to push back when clients bring to us to say, you must do this at an abnormally cheap rate. It should be that if they try to leave you and go to another developer, there's a general understanding that this level of work, and no one is in the industry is going to accept this level of work for this amount of money. So if we keep on allowing all of these different problems that we are aware of, and we are still accepting them or allowing it to shift from one person to the other who is accepting it, then it won't change. Businesses will still treat developers like crap. They will still offer unfair prices, and the culture just won't change if we can't come together as developers and security professionals and such. If we can't come together and create the change within our community, then the people outside of it won't take it serious either.
Well, this is a career-focused meeting, so maybe we can use that to kind of as a segue to talking about developer compensation and so on. So let's talk about, as I said, culture. Software developers systematically and routinely underestimate the economic value of our work, and you know why? It comes easy to us, and we will do it for free. We love it. We get to build these lofty abstractions and where the compilers and send orchestrator systems and Akil's and Circle CI infrastructure, and we love it and we do it for free. And we don't understand how much economic value we generate, and so people offer some ridiculous salaries, and as we said, in our minds we do it for free sometimes, and we take anything and nothing. But there is something about the developer psyche where we don't really, and maybe it's related to how we view developers. A lot of us tend to we view sales and marketing as evil and deceptive and that type of thing. But there's something in the modal developers mindset where we don't understand how much economic value is that we create and how to capture that. Listen, I mean, we're all software people here. We hear about the salaries that the fan companies pay. There's a reason for that. Developers generate a lot of economic value. We need to understand that. We need to really internalize that, and then internalize capturing some of that consumer surplus, as my economics people would say. Developers should be highly paid. We should be highly paid, and I'm not making this as some sort of moral argument. I'm talking about simply from an economic perspective, based on the amount of value that we generate, what automation can do for a business. If you can quantify that and say, hey, listen, I'm making this company 10 million a year because of the system I wrote, I want 5 of that. I'm going to work 3 days a week in the office too. So yeah.
Okay, so there's two people who raised their hand. Before I give them the chance to speak, let me just make two points. One, so this career roadmap, or talking about career situation in Jamaica, I'm aiming to keep it a monthly event and get different type of panelists to come on, not just from developers perspective, but also get some entrepreneurs, whether from NCB, Sagicor, and these different entrepreneurs to come on, or human resource manager to come on and talk about what they look for in software development, and like the pay rate and why it is the way it is when it comes out to the pay grade. So that's something that I want to point out before we move on, because we're actually going towards 8 o'clock, which is supposed to be the cutoff time, but we can go over the 8. So the second point is regarding to the exponential growth and
A
opportunity.
second there, Oshin.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm saying that, sorry, I have to leave now. I have another meeting to join in a few. So
Yes, I know you told me you had to leave from 7:25, I think.
yes, 7:45. Yeah, 7:45. But I certainly enjoyed the discussion, and thanks for having me. I learned a lot from the fellow panelists and everyone in the audience. So thank you guys. Have a good one.
Yeah,
No
man, take
problem.
care, Deandrew.
Come on.
So when come on to the exponential growth and opportunities, the problem we face, one of the problems we face is that knowledge, the knowledge of how do I price something, what type of work should I do, and the availability of jobs and opportunities. So one of the things that I'm trying to do with this Jamaican developers group is creating that job board, and will develop. It's like Fiverr, but tailored for Jamaicans developers, especially for local companies and overseas companies. It's all about to expose these job opportunities on these developers to these different type of job opportunities, as well as a training regimen whereby developers can book someone like 2 hours, 3 hours to get a run through of how to develop whether it's a Laravel application or Flutter application. So because one of the things that we lack at times is the community to build and grow and to develop our skills together. Everyone is doing a separate task, doing this, doing that. There are various communities in Jamaica, and there's a disconnect with the different communities, and when it comes to helping the public in growing the different skills. Because for example, there's WordPress community. I'm not sure if WordPress call on a security specialist like Gavin to how can we secure WordPress website, since it's one of the most apt platform out there at the moment. Or call on JavaScript community. How can we build serverless technology on top of WordPress and just streamline a single site JavaScript website, things like that, to just combine these different communities and offer these different type of learning opportunities, job opportunities, and so that's something that I personally want to gear towards the whole training and exposure of developers in Jamaica. So moving on to the two people who raised their hand, I don't know their names. I just see PK and KL. So PK, you can go first.
Good evening, guys. How are you? I am a teacher, classroom person, and I'm elated to be in the midst of you young people. I actually came, I don't know how I got here really, but I'm a community development officer. I work with young people, and last year I introduced to them a heart program web page design. But I was um, actually not willing to offer it this year because I was actually being demoted to the fact that it is domicile, it's obsolete, it has nowhere going because you have like a Wix and you have those that are ready to make up those sites for persons. And so at that same way, yes, COVID is here, and in the classroom we have to introduce all of that. And I'm saying there must be a way out. There must be another forum. There must be something else that they can take this to. Now, well, most of them don't have the qualification to go to UA at the end of the day, but the introduction through the hard program of the web page, where do I take them to in terms of a workplace, an industry, to get them into more experience, to get them further motivated to go to VTDI or somewhat. So I am really, really happy to be here. The fact that I don't think I wasted my time, and I don't think I'll be wasting my time to introduce it, to continue with them with that program. So thank you so much.
So as an educator myself, my question to you is: you said that you have introduced them to the hard trust introduction to web page design.
Right. There's a web page design level 1 and level 2.
Oh, my mother did that once. Um, it's not, from my perspective, I don't think it will give them a start, but it's almost like you're starting at -1, because some of the lecturers who are, giving or trying to impart the knowledge are not industry. They're not a part of industry. So you find that they're way out of date. So whatever they're teaching them, when I get students like that said they do that, I'm surprised at what they know, because I'm thinking that they're ahead of everybody else, and they're not.
No, you're right about that, and that is why I am here, because I offer them animation, but the person was actually in the animation thing, so therefore they were further ahead than the web page said. And I'm saying, how do I help them? Because I do believe that this industry, they can have a move into this industry.
Well, I know that O'Shane has his virtual thing planned. So this is just a plug for the entity at I work for part-time. So there we offer web development short course for 8 weeks, which I am the lead on that. So when a student comes into that course, they're learning cutting edge or bleeding edge technologies as it relates to web development. So it's still an introduction, but at the same time, it kind of takes out all of that deprecated material and ensures that when they finish now, they can decide, where do I go next? But additionally, what you see on the screen now is also something that they can also enroll in, which once I get the time, I can be also a part of this to see how best I can lend my expertise. Because I see that there is this major gap that cannot be filled by traditional schools, because as was rightly said before, you have a curriculum which has not been a dated curriculum. So by the time the students go through that, they're just skimming the surface as it relates to what is required in the field.
Thank you.
So I was going to add on to what Tremaine said, but I think Tremaine covered most of what this virtual classroom program is about. But to add some meat specifics to it, the virtual classroom is like a 6-month program, which it will focus on software development at its core, how to build something from scratch and to market we're going to actually build a viable solution and market to Jamaica. So part of the program is a customer development, how to understand, okay, what the users that are going to use the system, what are the design patterns that people should utilize and the best practices. So it's a 6 to 9 months program, and it's geared towards it's actually geared towards digital professionals and student developers. It's not necessarily geared towards high school students, but the main aim of it is that we bridge the gap between the education system and what we're utilizing in technology. As Tremaine pointed out, there are things in the education system that is being taught which is literally outdated, and when a developer go into the industry to work on whichever project or so forth, they have a lot of technology concepts and so forth to learn. And of course, because of this, there's a delay in the hiring process of these graduates, and as well as developers that's been out in the market but can't find any job because of their experience or not being able to utilize certain tools. So the classroom is geared towards, okay, trainees are going to train by industrial specialists, as well as getting feedback from companies that are using particular technologies, and we basically use those technologies inside of the virtual classroom. So at the end of the virtual classroom, they can easily say that, oh, they work with these technologies, and they can eventually get a job at the various tech companies in Jamaica. So that's basically it. I can send you information about the virtual classroom after this meeting. Another person had a question. Wait, is there anything else before I move on? PK, wait, can you remind me of your name? I don't think I quite catch your name.
I'm Paula Johnson.
Paula Johnson. So if there's any other question, you can message me. I'll send you the information. Or if Tremaine wants to give you more information about what VTI does, I can get you in contact with Tremaine.
Sure.
Next person was KL. KL, do you still have a question? Not sure who KL is.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
I was saying that I raised my hand by accident.
Oh,
sorry about that.
No problem. So that's basically it for the discussion panel regarding upcoming events. There's one this Thursday, which is getting started with Git and Git workflows, which is basically a version control tool to ensure that code is easily integrated, shareable, and can work with remote teams as well as group in companies. Followed by
sorry, O'Shane, the time is 6 p.m. Also for these, all these are 6 p.m.
Okay, yes, all of these are 6 p.m. except the one on Saturday, which is the 25th, which is getting started with the Laravel. Every other event is basically 6 p.m. The time and so forth is on the meetup.com as well as on JamaicanDevelopers.com website. I'll send out information about these after the meeting.
But O'Shea,
yes.
In which one of these sessions do I get to bash PHP and JavaScript? I'm not seeing that here in this list. What's going on here?
All quiet, Oswald. All quiet.
Well, honestly, it's There's something that I'm actually experiment on, which is, even though earlier I said it's not about the language, it's about the concept and the algorithm and so forth, which is very poetic. But I dislike PHP as well, but I have to give props to Laravel. So you might notice that there's a visual software testing robot versus Cypress. Jordan Jones and I have been a quarrel about which is better. So we are doing a verse off to ensure we make our point that like for me, robot is way better than Cypress. So if you're interested in bashing something that Tremaine is using, just let me know. If Tremaine accept that challenge, we can just arrange a meeting about the difference between the two, how to use these software tools and the benefits of these software tools.
I'm not going to argue with Oswald, so you can cut me out of that one.
I mean, there's not much to argue about, is there?
I'll remain silent on that.
All right. And the next, okay. So I spoke about the Flutter event. I'm seeking international, some developers from US, especially from Google, to talk about the Flutter. That's not fully arranged, but I'm hoping I get a response from them sometime this weekend. So it might be rescheduled, but as soon as I find out from them whether they can or not, I'll update the group. And then the next event is the career roadmap in software development, which is August 18th. But before that, there might be one other event which has not been officially launched, mainly because it's geared towards a demo day, a monthly demo day for developers to showcase something that they've done. Like, for example, I can simply invite Oswald to just demo his right build app, tracking app, or Tremaine to demo his ship me command line terminal. And this is for showcasing stuff that we've done and letting the public know about these applications that is being built by Jamaicans. So those are the next set of events that is coming up between this month and next. With that said, thank you all for Denise Simpson. No, it's not Denise. Patrick Witter. Do you have a question?
Yes, I'd like to know where can I find the recording of the meeting.
Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. I will send out the recording for the meeting after this meeting once Zoom send me the video link. Another thing that I was supposed to say at the earlier parts in the meeting was to ask permission from everyone or give a notice that I'm interested in publishing this recording on YouTube for reference for anyone else who's interested in any of these topics. So if I'll send out a question regarding that, and if anyone has a problem with any of the section, you let me know and I can just remove your personal information if that's an issue. So I'll send you the link, the direct link. Otherwise, from that, I'm going to publish it on YouTube. That's it, Patrick.
Could I have a bit more clarification? You said you're going to publish it on YouTube or?
Okay, so we're utilizing Zoom at the moment, which records the meeting. At the end of whenever I stop the meeting or stop the recording, a link is going to be generated. I'll send you. Are you a part of the meetup.com group on Facebook? On Meetup, for example, Meetup.
Yes, I'm a part of the group.
Yes, so I'll send the link to the group members there, as well as sometime later this week I'm going to publish the video after I do some video editing. I'm going to publish it on YouTube, which is the edited version. And that edited version will also be sent to the meetup group as well.
Okay, thanks.
Right. All right. So is there any other question? I take that as a no. So thank you very much for attending, and thank you panelists for all the feedbacks and the talks we did. It was real insightful, and I enjoyed the event, and I hope all of you did as well. So until the next time, take care, stay COVID free, and be safe.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks again.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Everyone.